Welcome to another edition of the Civ Battle Royale. My name is Dawkins, and I apologize that it is a day late, and I'm going to try to get it out as soon as I can, but this is Episode 9, Weaponized Peace. This part is narrated by Thy Reformer. With most of the cylinder entering the medieval era, more and more civs begin to run out of space. To be conquerors would do well to remember, however, that as victories mount, so too will resistance. Starting on turn 126, let's get right into it. Hello lads, and welcome to episode 9 of season 1 of the world-famous Civ Battle Royale X, or Cbrix. I'm user Thy Reformer, and I will be your host today, narrating you through what is turning out to be a very stormy episode indeed. OC of the week. Last week, Haiti took Maturin without much trouble. Can they move onwards to bigger targets this week? Credit to user Dosset for this piece of art. Dosset is a great contributor to the sub with all of his art, and it's really appreciated so much that it is the official art of my channel. He designed the Civ ball that I have in my videos these days, and if you click the one in the bottom right of this video, it'll subscribe to my channel. So thanks again for everything, Dosset. Hand-drawn map of the week is by user Varia, as usual. Hotspots to watch this part are the HRE's Wars, the Nubian Coalition, the Goth Wars, what remains of Canton's Coalition, and of course, the Venezuelan Coalition. And here, for a bit of change of pace, is a tile and terrain-accurate map by user Der Erlingkonig. Other hotspots around the cylinder are the Manx Scottish War, the Kazakh Avenks War, and the Apache Aztec War. And breaking Zimbabwe's streak, Lavalleja's Uruguay re-enters the top spot, tragically. The two civs remain extremely close, but will they still be neck and neck after this part? Perched atop Hadrian's Wall. We start off the episode in the Isles, observing what is the first damaged city in one of the many ongoing European wars this part. From the safety of the Great Wall, the Scottish composite bowmen fire potshots at the Manx capital, while in the south, the Manx land forces approach St. Andrews. Will the Scottish city not even garrisoned at the moment? I somehow have more confidence in the Manx offensive, even if it's the one hindered by the Great Wall. For a war in the Isles, the seas are strangely calm, as the only naval battle appears to be in the north in the form of a small skirmish. Breach and clear. Eastward on the edge of Europe, the Goth army marches onward, finally breaching the walls of the Golden Horde capital, Saray Batu. Toktamish has gathered a host of his best men for a glorious last stand, but will it be enough? Meanwhile, in the upper right corner, the Goths begin to slowly realize that they have another enemy to fight, as Ablai Khan's men systematically surround Ravenna. As we will remember from last part, Ravenna has already taken heavy damage and is likely to fall soon. Perhaps more interestingly, the Parthian settler you barely see on the slide has sat still for dozens of turns at this point. What goes through the heads of those people, I don't know. Maybe they've gotten lost in the dunes. Migrational tactics. Blue Cassette bestows upon us an excellent shot of southern India, home of the Maratha. As the highest-ranked Indian civ, Maratha is facing a lot of pressure, and as we know, pressure can mess with a man. Opting to forgo Sri Lanka in favor of more distant islands must be stress-induced decision. Moving a good dozen units to protect your distant holdings is a more coherent action, but still questionable. On the flip side, we return to the Goths with a proper view of their eastern holdings, and indeed it is proven that Ravenna is at 0 HP, with a Kazakh melee unit ready to go once next turn comes. With Ravenna's fall a foregone conclusion, will the Kazakh hordes march further, or will the attack dissipate beyond Ravenna? On the west side of the Goth realm stands a surprisingly good Muscovite army. Attacking now would be a shot at a long-term relevancy for Ivan the Terrible, but does he have what it takes to disprove his moniker? Wasted arrowheads. In Central Europe, Havel continues to desperately funnel troops towards Liberec, his former city, all the while forgetting that melee units are a useful thing to have on the front line. Somewhere in Prague, a general is yelling loudly. These bananas ain't ripe, yeet! With Maturin well within its grasp, Toussaint considers sailing forward to Venezuela's slightly misplaced city of Barcelona, but observers will notice that the Haitian forces have suffered noticeable losses in this war. Sure, Barcelona has only an embarked composite bowman defending it, but when the land approach to the city is 1 tile wide and you have, only 3 triremes nearby, even an undefended city poses somewhat of a problem. Go away, come back another day. Camos's landing party. Enrico stubbornly continues his naval invasion of Algeria, with the capital of the white and blue civ still in the yellow. As we remember from last part, this attack already dispersed once. At least you can't blame the Venetians for giving up. Including the settler in the attack is a weird choice though. Just south of the Algerian capital, Mascara still heals from the wounds of war. Peace between Algeria and Songhai might have been an excellent decision for the Algerians, as it ensures that the Algerian army is not distracted by Mascara, and is instead able to sit on the Mediterranean coast, firing arrows and rocks weighing less than 90 kilograms at the invasion fleet. Back again, Miss Vanjie. In a single turn, the Goth army brings Saray Batu down to half health. With any luck, the city will fall next turn, but the melee unit next to the city looks a bit worse for wear. Alaric would do well to bring another one closer if he's actually interested in capturing the city. You might notice that Ravenna has not fallen despite my ravings earlier to the contrary, but this is simply due to the Kazakh turn not coming along yet, and as such, I maintain my promise that the city will fall. Parthian settler status, sitting on their hands. Inevitable, as they say. And mere moments later, Ravenna has fallen to the Kazakhs. Immediately thereafter, Ablay Khan orders his men to divide and conquer, as in divide into 2 separate groups and attack 2 cities simultaneously. It worked before, right? On the sidebar, we see Shikoku has built Hagia Sophia, giving him a great profit when all the religions have already been founded. In slightly more important news, Nubia has managed to make peace with one of the civs in the coalition, but then again, it's not like Minos has been much of a threat to begin with. Taking lessons from the Venetians. Coming in sight of another civ fighting the Venezuelans, we have the Nazca, doing its best battling through the small mountain passes of Valencia. A respectable navy of 4 triremes has come together outside of Valencia as well, but nevertheless, the city seems like it will hold for now. Notable, however, is the settler walking through a mountain pass seemingly towards Valencia. The spearmen, I hear, are accompanying the settler for self-defense. Self-defense that mostly consists of charging into a Venezuelan formation of spearmen, to be specific. Quebecois seaside resorts. We are taken all the way north to Quebec, as a Manx city has been spotted by some Canadians walking by, near also recently settled city of Edmonton. A settling choice rivaling that of the Yupik or the Qing in absurdity, Port Erin is a wild card on the North American continent. Will the Manx go as the Icelandics once did in an alternate reality, or will Canada finally have a city to capture? Raving Madman. A single look at Eastern Mediterranean reveals the grave reality of the Nubian-Minoa peace. In order to appease the Nubians, Malea has been given away in the peace deal, leaving Minoa with one last city. What could have possibly driven the Minoans to accept this? Personally, I believe that Minos finally escaped his labyrinth, but not with his sanity intact. Anyway, from the painful disappointments of the Mediterranean, the Libyan-Nubian war presses on. With Palmyra rendered to a non-threat due to terrain, Paye is able to reinforce the western side of his dwindling kingdom. Perhaps he can come out of this war without losing any more cities. Also, to touch back, that labyrinth was made by Mad Maria, right? I would only presume so. Just sack it already. As expected, Saray Batu has fallen to very low health. In equally expected news, the spearman sitting outside the city has also fallen. Please, Alaric, I believe in you. Move that spearman closer. In less stressful news, Zimbabwe has built yet another wonder. This one is Paro Chaksang, and it gives +1 faith and culture from mountain tiles. Specifically, it gives those yields to all workable mountains in Zimbabwe lands. Nice. Parthian settler status, assumed to have been eaten by a sandworm. Watery distractions. Don't be distracted by the naval skirmishes occurring in the center of the shot here. Point your eyes at the city of Ostrava in minimal health, with a Turkish swordsman a tile from the city. What do you mean they made peace? The Turks make peace with the Czechs once again without taking Ostrava. I do believe this is the closest they have gotten to capturing the city, so maybe next time they'll have a better luck. Maybe Mehmed will turn his eyes to Malia's new owner instead. The other relevant piece on this slide is the one between Nazca and Venezuela, meaning the Venezuelan coalition might be falling apart already. Stepping stones to hope. While the Moorish city on Iceland and its German invaders aren't exactly news, the Viking city on Faroe is. While not as good as its Moorish counterpart, Hagar will hopefully serve as a stepping stone to more distant lands for the Vikings, who have yet to prove they deserve to be called such. Sidebar tells us that Uruguay has declared war on the Apache. While clearly too far for them to do anything, it seems odd and out of place. Settler Con cancelled, Trireme Con announced. The next scene reveals the true nature of the declaration of war on the Apache. Yupik has also declared war on the Apache, hinting at a coalition war, and while the Yupik are just as unlikely to deal damage to the Apache, there is a very real chance that someone closer to them joins the coalition. For now, the only victim of the coalition war is an Apache scout stuck in the Arctic wastes, with the Yupik army on one side and the freezing sea on the other. But hey, at least he gets to view the Trireme Con in his last moments. Kamos' settling party. And just like that, the Venetian invasion has been deflected again. In fact, it was deflected so well that I can't see a single Venetian trireme here. Only an embarked warrior remains, and the settler from earlier for whatever reason. If I were you, I'd unembark onto that empty land tile next to you ASAP. The city requires a sacrifice. A city for a city. While nothing changes around Saray Batu, Kazakhs rush to surround Olagaikis, forcing me to take back my implication about Ablay Khan not being able to take anything beyond Ravenna. The city looks as good as dead, with Alaric unwilling to reinforce the city, his eyes fixed on the big prize, the Golden Horde capital. Will the sacrifice be worth it, though? Parthian settler status, at this point probably stuck at home with his Harlequin-loving father. Florida man's reign begins here. In an effort to outdo Venezuela's Barcelona, Lavalleja settles a misplaced city of his own in the Lesser Antilles, Florida. A home to weirdos in the future, Lavalleja nevertheless isn't the only one interested in the Lesser Antilles, as a Quecuro settler lands nearby as well. The region will be quite the mess in the early game. This particular scene also acts as a showing of how Haiti is faring against Venezuela on land. Aided by Uruguay's navy, the Haitian army has reached the gates of Caracas once again. Whether this strange cooperation will aid either of the two is up to luck at this point. Only one civ can smell good. In another European war, the battle for Cologne trudges on. With the citadel south of Cologne already pillaged by Moorish bowmen, approaching the city will be much easier. Considering how limited the garrison around the city is, Abd ar-Rahman might just have a chance at taking the city, but he'll have to play his cards right to achieve such success. Just like the Sulu playing their cards right. This time around, the sidebar gives us a relevant war, as Songhai declares war on Libya in an attempt at reclaiming honor lost in the Algerian War. Pirates of the Persian Gulf. Apparently Oman is at war with India. I wouldn't blame you for forgetting this one. 2 triremes are more of a raid than an actual invasion anyway. I'm starting to think the BAD in Hyderabad stands for Bad Invasion Target. But the Seljuk settler heading into the Indian Ocean, now that's interesting. The sidebar is kind today, as 2 civs are angry at Minos for, being insane, I guess. Obviously, only Libya can reach Knossos at this point, but making another enemy out of a neighbor might have not been the smartest move. Shock and awe. I'm surprised in all honesty. Bangalore will probably be the first city settled by an Indian civ to fall, and it's settled across the Himalayas. This is some next-level irony right here. Due to my unnatural obsession, I'm going to point out the Evenk Inquisitor on this slide. In case you are not aware, Inquisitors can only do stuff in your own cities. The Evenks have a unique that affects Inquisitors. It is a unique unit available at Philosophy, and it can give Inquisitors and Missionaries the Medic promotion. But Evenks don't have Philosophy, and even if they did, a unit with Medic wouldn't be useful thousands of miles away from their only front. So why is the Inquisitor here? That is all I want to know. Overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. We return to the Eastern Mediterranean to see just what the Libyan-Minoan War actually means. As it stands, the two navies look fairly equal. A realization has struck me, however, as the Libyan navy strikes Malea instead of bothering to fight the Minoans, and due to the circumstances, Nubia is naturally unable to reinforce the city. Libya might have hit the jackpot, but they still need to defend against Songhai's invasion force, infamous for only being competent in the Saharan desert. In time, you will know the tragic extent of my failings. Ugh, that's gonna sting. That's gonna leave a mark. That looks like it hurt. In a move as baffling and absurd as the peace deals of Hong Kong and Malea, Scotland gives away Glasgow, her biggest city in a peace deal. It would only sting more if the Great Wall was built in Glasgow, but luckily for the Scots, they can still have their empowered last stands as the wonder was built in Edinburgh. Regardless of wonders or lack thereof, the Manx have now been offered dominion over the Isles on a silver platter. Time will tell where their might is pointed in the future. Dagger pointed at your heart. We finally get to see Libya's front against Songhai. Libya holds the technological advantage, but the production advantage is obviously Songhai's. And unlike in the Algerian War, Songhai has its army right in the right place, pointed directly at Libya's capital. Omar Mokhtar might be getting too big for his britches. Breathing room, figuratively. We get a bit of a breather from all the wars by looking at southern Arabia, the meeting place of Palmyra, Beta Israel, and Oman. With the capture of Ptolemais, war in this region is no more. But with land running out quickly, especially due to Palmyra, the peace might be more temporary than it seems. On second thought, back in the war zone, we get a better look at the desert war here, and it looks like I might have been wrong about Songhai knowing where to put its troops. The amount of units they seem to have sent looks very insufficient, meaning Libya might just walk away unpunished from all of these wars. This might very well be a turning point for the Civ that has otherwise struggled. Exciting news are received through the sidebar with a vast South American war. Nazca has declared war on the Quiquero once more, and then this time they have made a deal with the devil, as Uruguay has also declared war on the Green Civ. Displacement. The Germans have 3 great generals around their capital and some embarked settlers to the north. Limerick is still in red. Havel still hates using melee units. Don't you boys know that stagnation is death, especially in the Thunderdome that is Europe? In more heartbreaking news, the gifting of Malea seems to have displaced Minoan units all the way into Slovenia. These poor lads will likely never meet their families again. But hey, at least great Nyatsimba Mutota has built Zimbabwe yet another glorious wonder, the Kandaria Madhadeva Temple, giving them 3 production for every religion present in the city. It represents their, glory. Will it burn? A grand shot at South America reveals to us the circumstances of the Great Amazon War. Lavalleja has raised a veritable horde of soldiers raring to go. Kawachi seems less prepared, though. He's probably confident in Lavalleja's ability to solve his problems for him, but this problem is no ordinary problem. Quiquero is known for being an impenetrable fortress in the Amazon. Can the Uruguayan army crack the turtle's shell? An awfully long last stand. While Oligaikis falls to the Kazakhs in the background, Toktamish's last stand intensifies, and in fact, it looks like the Golden Army has grown since we last saw it. At this rate, Ablai Khan will capture the city sooner than Alaric can. But there is no worry. A Goth warrior is approaching the city, only blocked by a horseman. This will be close. Very close. Parthian settler status? Settled. Civ Battle Royale, Battle Royale. In a bid for relevancy, the Nanettes and Evenks announced the first ever Battle Royale on the cylinder to be waged between real men to real death. Shh, don't tell them. Excited to follow the bloody event, the local Kazakh army has opted to watch the event from Suzak, instead of bothering with actual fighting near Ergun. In the background, Iroquois and Poverty Point make peace. Psych! You thought Apache was getting coalitioned? Too bad, because it's actually Yupik who's getting coalition. Trust. While Métis won't be able to do much, Haida's war with Yupik is a long-awaited one. As you might remember from an earlier scene, Yupik do not have much of a navy, at least not near their core. Against a civ with a naval unique unit, this is a critical mistake. Koya has done his best to carpet the seas in preparation for this day, and now it's finally here. The Yupik are right to be afraid. Immeasurable disappointment. In a very anticlimactic fashion, the Goth Golden Horde War ends right as the war was going to be decided one way or another. As a tribute to Tokhtamesh's superior diplomatic abilities, it appears that no city has been given away either. Tokhtamesh walks away from the war wounded, but not crippled. Alaric does have some good news, though, as Alagaikas has somehow flipped back to him. I'd like to know how, in all honesty, as the last time we saw the city, it was well and truly surrounded by Kazakh troops. I have your interests in mind. Back in France, the Moors seem oddly eager to repeat the Goth mistakes by shoving only bowmen at the German city. Triremes won't win you the city, boys. Any of your many melee units could do it. The Germans, seemingly noticing the lack of melee units approaching the city, relax and send a catapult or two to reinforce the city. Tokhtamesh did it. Why couldn't we do it too? In the Far East, Qingxi removes Sulu from the coalition, pestering her. For someone just listening, that probably sounds more menacing than it truly is. You must be straight up insane to even try. In a surprise move, Shikoku is dealing real damage to Macau, earlier deemed to be too hard to approach by sea without naval ranged units. Whether it's enough or not is questionable, but it is an impressive showing nevertheless, and shows that Shikoku can continue to apply its competence on the seas. Just don't mind the menacing chin in the background. Qingxi removes another civ from the coalition pestering her. This time it's Tonga. Tonga time is over. First Blood. As a sequel to an earlier scene, here is Bangalore actually falling. As said earlier, it is the first city settled by an Indian civ to fall, which is incredible considering the countless wars that have already ravaged the subcontinent. Maybe a foreign power will have better luck making progress here. Against a rock and an Aztec place. We're given a great shot of the Haida war machine, and oh boy, it does not look good for their northern neighbor. The first victims of the war appear to be the Yupik forward settle, Serenek, and some poor scouts. While a small fleet has been sent to deal with Serenek, a majority of the war fleet appears to be headed straight for the main prize, the Yupik capital, of course. Luck is blind, but so is justice. We're back in Egypt, where we see that Omar has decided to divide the fleet's attention between Malia and Minoa. A foolish decision, but Omar is in luck. The Palmyrene army appears to be embarking to cross the Red Sea, becoming a bit of a threat for Nubia again. With the Nubian army starting to dwindle, it's likely that any units threatening Nuri will be pulled back. Such is Omar's intense luck, at least so far. You fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. If you forgot the Apache-Aztec War, I will ever so slightly judge you, since it had a chance of going somewhere, at least originally. But someone who hasn't forgotten is Louis Riel, as the Métis declare war on the distracted Apache, joining the pseudo-coalition war. Many have judged Louis' aggression in the past, but he is out here to prove that North America is his territory and no one else's. Like throwing a dart at the map. The Songhai invasion, already weakened and dispersing, does not make me confident in Askia's ability to wage war. Maybe the Mediterranean coast is too far from the Sahara. At the very edge of this shot, Nuri falls to half health, but as you'll remember, Nubia does not have melee units anywhere nearby, amounting to zero threat to Libya. The sidebar tells us that Jamuka has finally made an attempt at a relevant war, but reaching Korea might be a bit difficult. Joining him is none other than Tonga, ready to continue Tonga time. Is this what hope feels like? Quite abruptly indeed, the Moorish invasion force directly outside of Cologne grows in size to completely encompass the German lands west of the city. Possibly even learning from the mistakes of others, a spearman has been brought close, only blocked by a single bowman on the German side. While peasants squabble, glorious Zimbabwe has constructed another wonder. I think that's all they do these days. It is the churches of Lalibela, giving Zimbabwe the great boon of faith from specialists. Truly, there is not a greater people on the cylinder. Convert the bears and don't forget the deer. To prove to you that the comics aren't about to reach Korea and cripple them for good, here is a shot of the untapped wilderness between the two civs. Mostly missionaries dare step into these forests beyond human grasp. In truth, they are probably moving towards Kamchatka to convert Qing's colonies, but I like to imagine that they're converting wild animals to Confucianism. Uncle Louie's fishing trip. A shot of the Métis-Apache border reveals that while the Apache definitely weren't prepared for this war, the Métis don't seem at all prepared either. A host of dozen or so units sit near the iconic city of Fish Creek, famous for its fish, but don't seem particularly eager to do anything like actual fighting. Maybe Louis' orders of fighting were mistaken for fishing. They should all probably move to the other famous place, Schitt's Creek, where they can go to Rose's Apothecary. What, never got bit by a turtle before? Our return to South America reveals a war so far dominated by Kwikuro. In the heart of the Amazon, Kwikuro already surround Paradones. Unlike Kwikuro, the Nazca have been forced to cut down the jungles around the city to make it at least a bit useful, and this move has backfired spectacularly, allowing for an easy approach towards the city. Meanwhile, on the Uruguayan front, Kwikuro has learned from the Selknam in building up a small navy to abuse Lavalleja's unwillingness to build one, bringing the hurt to Uruguay. Minas is unlikely to fall, but a man can hope. This all betrays the reality of the situation, however. South of this shot, the actual Uruguayan army is surely approaching Cojecugu. Surely. That's it. Death is inevitable. A turn passes and Cyrenaica falls systematically lower. It is inevitable, I tell you. But at least the city was converted before it fell, sowing the seed of, that religion of theirs. The two neighboring cities have been converted as well. In other North American news, Apache have made peace with the Aztecs, worried that the Métis might be serious about fighting instead of fishing. Those who don't know history. With a better shot of the Amazon, we see that Paradones has fallen to 0, with a warrior unique unit within range of the city. Thus, a foregone conclusion. In further good news for Kwikuro, Uruguay seems to have taken its sweet time in entering Kwikuro lands, but at least a horseman has entered far enough to pillage the great citadel that Anetu placed to more or less just piss off Lavalleja. That's gotta have taken some massive balls. Are doomed to repeat it. In a shot clearly taken to contrast Malia, and in a result of the recent HRE Czech peace, we see that Brno is now flying brown and yellow colors. Wow. While not necessarily all that useful for the Germans, this peace is crushing to any dreams or hopes that the Czechs might have still had. With Havel's empire divided in two, he might as well just fuck around as much as he can from here on out. Just imagine how similar his situation would be to the Minoans if Ostrava had fallen to the Turks. In equally depressing news, the Slovenian Minoans aren't the only Minoans displaced into this direction, as there are 2 units in Italy as well. Poor souls. Frustration. Lavalleja, frustrated by the Amazon, signs a peace treaty with Venezuela, leaving only Haiti and the Aztecs to fight the Yellow Beast. Judging by the unit compositions by Caracas and Gonaïves, Haiti won't see much success here. Maybe you should have taken the city earlier when you had the chance, Toussaint. The Gap. To remind you that their war is definitely important, Tonga and Korea have decided to have a small skirmish east of the Philippines. Probably more interesting here, however, is either the Murray fleet sailing far, far from home, or the Qing settler still going around in circles, seemingly disappointed with every single spot it could settle. Oddly infuriating is the one-tile gap of deep ocean between Palau and Mindanao we see here. That's surely how you pronounce those names. The Expendables. The Moorish army here, while weakened somewhat and missing the spearmen mentioned earlier, has picked up the pace and brought a swordsman to the very front of the battle. And this time, there are no pesky bowmen in the way. Will the city fall next turn? Find out next time on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. I have received a transmission from Blue Cassette telling me that on turn 134, the HRE has researched theology, thus sending them into the medieval era, and changing their leader to Sir Yaravarman II. Sir Yavarman II. That's right, folks. That's his name. Maybe Khmer Lad can turn the tide of the Moorish War. Just call for reinforcements, dude. The Apache are out of the picture, and the Aztecs return to attacking Maracay. This attack seems doomed as well, judging by how few men Montezuma has sent to attack the city again. You really would benefit from a navy here, Monty, but the only coastal Aztec city on this side of the continent is a 4-pop city, so I guess I should have expected the lack of naval support. On the sidebar, Venice builds the Great Mosque of Degen, improving the missionaries bought in the city with the wonder. Lots of religious wonders this part. A brilliant confluence of skill and purpose. Against all expectations, Ryoma has managed to damage Macau all the way down to red. The city, hard to approach by sea and surrounded by ranged defenders, has nevertheless taken a beating, and more reinforcements seem to be ready to go every time we look at this region. Can Ryoma actually take the city? You might have missed it in the midst of the good dozen or so war declarations last part, but Maratha is indeed at war with the pirates as well, and for that, Shivaji has sent a small fleet to aid Ryoma, or perhaps the ships are here to snipe the city and take credit for Ryoma's achievement. Quarantines are for dealing with a plague. Both the Goths and Kazakhs seem oddly disinterested in Oligarchus here. Only a Goth worker resides in the city, as military units from both sides are avoiding the city like the plague. Indeed, looking for another target, the Kazakh army has jumped north to bully Tolosa instead. Tolosa looks to fall as well, and this one should be extremely difficult for the Goths to flip back. How much more is Alaric willing to bleed? Well planned is half done. And just like that, a turn later, Cologne has fallen to the brave Moorish swordsmen. The Germans, realizing they no longer smell good, send a contingent of bowmen alongside a spearman to recapture the city. But Moorish supporters should not worry for the city flipping back, as a second Moorish swordsman is already approaching, ready to recapture the city if it were to fall back into German hands. And even behind that swordsman, a backup spearman is incoming. On the sidebar, Zimbabwe builds Petra, making desert tiles useful in the city it was built in, which Blue Cassette has told me is Zvangambi. Cool, don't know where that is. The city is situated on the edge of the Kalahari Basin, but unfortunately has a lot of floodplains near it. The flat desert near the city will benefit from the wonder though, and either way it represents the eternal glory, might, etc. of Zimbabwe. Procrastinating by watching the Battle Royale. The Kazakh army, awoken from its daze by the fall of Ergun and the wrath of Ablai Khan, realized that the Siberian Battle Royale was probably just an elaborate ploy to distract him. This might very well be true, considering the only other observers of the event were scouts from the Sami and the Golden Horde. To me, it seems like the city will easily flip and then flip some more, before inevitably falling to Kazakh hands in a temporary sense. Cascadian Unification. A return to Cascadia reveals to us that Cyrenaic has indeed fallen to the efficient Haida war machine. A massive fleet of war canoes, accompanied by a good half-dozen of embarked units, is seen slowly funneling towards the Yupik core. Better start praying to your gods, Inuit replacements. Don't push your luck. Back in North Africa, Askia seems extremely intent on capturing a Libyan city, as his invasion force of Sedsiv has doubled in size from when we last saw it. Either Benghazi or Tripoli look doomed to fall, and while this is all happening, Omar Mukhtar seems to be concentrating his troops on Manakura, a city Songhai settled earlier this part. To this end, he seems to have reduced the garrison in his core cities. There is currently no land unit resting in Tripoli. I get you're cocky, Omar, but don't you think this is a bit far? On the sidebar, Venice makes peace with Algeria after an embarrassing defeat. You'll need a shield breaker for this one. We jump back into the Amazon War, where Paradonis has fallen to the Kwikuro. Cahuachi seems to have little chance of retaking the city, but every coin has two sides, and the capture of Paradonis heralds the arrival of the Uruguayan troops, which are finally reaching the gates of Kwikugu. But as before, it is good to be skeptical, for Kwikuru is still unlikely to suffer from any real consequences. On the coast down the river, Uruguay embarks a settler into the waters ruled by the Kwikuro's navy. Nice going, La Valleja. Medieval Navy. The centerpiece of this shot is the Arafura Sea, here positioned squarely between the three powers of the region, Sulu, Papua, and Australia. While Australia focuses on settler spam and Sulu focuses on an efficient tech rate, Papua has managed to be the first in this region to reach compass, and thus the carracks you see here. Sulu's trireme replacement and Australia's bare bones garrisons would stand no chance should Papua desire to repeat its earlier success, because in this region, navy is everything. Nien yet niab. At least before the modern era, that is. A part of me hopes I could use Finnish puns. Kerma means cream. Paye, still convinced he can take back Nuri, and has inevitably allowed Palmyrene troops to land upon his shores. Though I'll give it to him, Palmyra is still unlikely to pose a threat, and the same goes for Beta Israel, who are opting to simply fire pot shots at the Nubian troops garrisoned by Meroe. That strange text you see in Beta Israel's unique unit doing its tricks. When it attacks an enemy unit, it pillages the tile under that unit. A novel concept, certainly. On the sidebar, we notice that a certain war has been rekindled. This could spell trouble for the Seljuks. I'm not stuck here with you, you are stuck here with me. An excellent overshot view of the Great Amazon War shows that an entire wave of Uruguayan troops is about to reach Kwikuro's cities, and yet they seem too few and too divided, targeting two cities at once. Nazca could definitely flank Hatsikugi from their side, but their troops are all over the place as well, with a small concentration by Estacaria, possibly ready to go and cooperate with Uruguay around Hatsikugi. For now, it is hard to say, that's for sure. For now, it's hard to say where the war will go from here, if anywhere. While his troops trudged through the Amazon, Lavalleja builds the Shwedagon Paya, improving the science of the city in which it was built, and also makes religious buildings give science alongside faith. Oh boy. One could easily consider it the best wonder of the medieval era. Oh, and Canada declares war on their own against the Yupik, in what is probably an attempt at making friends in Haida and the Métis. Attracting unwanted attention. While the border here between Palmyra and the Seljuks is not quite militarized at the moment, that will soon change. A veritable horde of Palmyrene troops is approaching Ray from the west, holding both the quality advantage and the quantity advantage. In truth, all Zenobia needs to do is push long enough and Ray will be hers. Both sides have their mounted unique units, but the Seljuk one is a chariot archer replacement in comparison to the horseman replacement that Palmyra has, and the Palmyrene one is clearly stronger either way. This will be an exhilarating bloodbath. In the background, Songhai makes a sudden peace with Libya. Ultimate fortunate ruler. Forcing me to eat every single one of my words, Omar Mukhtar does the impossible. Malia has fallen into his arms, and against Songhai, he has managed to capture Manakura right before making peace with Askia, resulting in a net gain of cities against a top 10 civ. Askia's war record is getting worse and worse, while Omar's is becoming quite impressive. At this point, it might be an insult to call it luck, but if this is all luck, it would most certainly be ultimate luck. On this slide, we note that Venice has caravels. Now, he shouldn't have those. Caravels require astronomy, and astronomy requires education, and education requires a bunch of techs Venice does not yet have. And not only that, but the Venice we're using has a caravel replacing unique unit, the Noleggiatore. So, what's going on here? Perhaps Blue Cassette can tell us what's going on. Mediterranean clapback. In the very next scene, it all falls apart. Venice, clearly building a grudge with Maghreb civs, declares a war on Libya, aided by the peculiar caravels, but also by what appears to be the Venetian galleass replacement in Constanziaco. It is the Great Galleass, and it is very similar to the galleass unique unit of Vanilla Venice, except it also receives a whopping plus 100% combat bonus against cities, making it quite the city-murdering machine. Attacking a weakened Libya might be the best decision Enrico could have done, meaning Omar's insane luck might have finally run out. Additionally, Nubia has captured Nuri, though Libya could still take it back at least once. Good news, everybody! Against all odds and expectations, Shikoku has captured Macau! With Qingxi's troops outside of the city consisting entirely of ranged units, and Ryoma lacking the ability to kill units near the city itself due to the lack of galleasses, it would seem that Ryoma can keep the city for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, the Marathan navy is dilly-dallying around the Canton capital in a way similar to how the Qing settler is still dilly-dallying around Luzon. Yaroslawl. An observant observer will notice that the Goths are rapidly bringing troops toward the Kazakh War. Recapturing Ravenna will obviously pose a problem with how well Ablai Khan is garrisoning the city right now. Alaric will also have to hurry if he wishes to reinforce Tolosa, as the city still looks unprepared for a proper fight, but then again, the Kazakhs don't seem particularly eager to give them that fight. There would be a longer intermission here about how useless Yaroslawl is, but you'll find the war declaration on the sidebar to be more interesting, and the next scene will tell you why. Colonialism ahoy! Indeed, the recent Australian and Marathan colonies are surprisingly close to each other, only 6 tiles from Geelong to Dar. Unfortunately for people who are looking forward to a proper bloody colonial war, the sea between the two colonies is quite thin. Maratha may look unprepared here, but if you remember a scene from earlier this part, you'll know that quite a large contingent of troops was coming this way. It is quite believable that there is a large assortment of troops just outside of this shot. Hot potato. Back on the Mediterranean, Malia has fallen to Venice as expected, making Venice the 4th owner of Malia in a single part. Will Malia become the most flipped city of the cylinder this season? It certainly has the central position to enable that. Ignoring Malia for a bit, though, Omar continues to prove that he is still confident in his luck by sending his triremes off to directly attack Venetian cities instead of bothering to prepare a proper defense. You know, I like a confident lad as much as the next narrator, but don't you think this is a bit far? In the background, Turks and Goths make peace, bringing some much-needed peace to the Black Sea. In a war of attrition, nobody wins. Paye proves that he still holds at least some cards in his hands by pushing the Libyans away from Nuri, and by doing his best to ignore the occasional Palmyrene units landing on his shores. A thought crosses the reader's mind, though. Could Nubia turn its defense against Libya into an offensive while Venice distracts the Green Civ? The potential is there, but they'll need more than one melee unit in that case. Entering the medieval era, as shown by the sidebar, should also help Paye here. War? No, it's an archery competition. Returning to the Fertile Crescent shows to us that the Palmyrene horde we saw earlier has dispersed, leaving maybe 10 units to attack Ray, but to be fair, the Seljuk garrison has gotten slightly weaker as well. The last 2 turns must have not been kind to the participants of this war, or maybe Zenobia is just not taking this war seriously enough. The journey is worth more than the destination. Canada? Being competent? Well, I'll be. The Canadian War Declaration we saw earlier was relevant after all, as the adventurous Yupik settler finally settled down in Quebec. It is saddening that their great adventure is about to end like this, but such is life on the cylinder, where even Canada will take a city from you if they can take you off guard. In more light-hearted news, Manx settle another city, this time in Labrador. The IRL Port St. Mary is apparently named after a chapel, which is no longer there, so that's cool. End of the line. And for the last scene of the episode, we get a nice calming shot of New Zealand, giving me a great chance to explain what the wonder they got does. It is the Itsukushima Shrine. And it gives plus 20 XP to all land and naval units built in the city where it was built, and the amphibious promotion to all land units built there. Overall, quite the nice wonder for the region. As an added bonus, the wonder also gives plus 3 faith on all sea resources near the city. Wonder or no, New Zealand seems to have militarized quite well. With any luck, this is in preparation for another Coral War, where Sudan would make some actual gains this time. Additionally, Australia is about to settle Tasmania, and a Tongan settler is heading south as we speak. And that's all, folks. I personally hope you have enjoyed this part, for I sure enjoyed perusing it. I have been user Thy Reformer, and you have been awesome. And my name is Dawkins. Again, I apologize that I'm a day late, but real life sometimes gets in the way. I will have the next part on time next week for episode 10. If you like this part, and if you like all of the other parts, if you don't mind liking and subscribing, I'd really, really appreciate it. You can also check out in my channel a link to the Civ Battle Royale channel, where there will be turn-by-turn scenes of each turn for the episode, along with some additional stuff there you can check out. Anyway, that is all I have to say for now, and until next week, we'll see you next time.